Ime Udoka is going to laugh this season, and he's going to laugh hard.
They changed. This team, man, Ime's done a fabulous job.
Ime Udoka is currently the head coach of the Rockets, and he was, of course, the former coach of the Boston Celtics. He was also a former basketball player and had a pretty decent, though rather underwhelming, run during his playing days. Not that he wasn't good or anything, just average. Anyway, that isn't the highlight of Ime's career. See, Ime began to show his true skills when he was first hired as an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. And the Spurs' success during this period was said to be due to Ime's influence and decision-making skills. His ability to predict plays and suggest counters put the Spurs in the NBA Finals in 2014, where they defeated the Miami Heat. From this moment up until 2021, Ime was on fire. And then came the big moment. In the Boston Celtics, Brad Stevens was being promoted to the president of basketball operations, and they needed a head coach. Stevens stated that he was the one who hired Udoka as his replacement because of his approachability. In that light, Udoka became the first ever NBA head coach of direct African origin. Now, at this time, the Celtics were falling severely behind, and it was at a point where it wouldn't have been Udoka's fault if they ended the season on an average note. But that isn't what happened. That season, they not only made a complete turnaround but also advanced to the finals. Although they lost, it was still a good run for them, considering where they had started from. All this was proper credibility for Udoka, and he was awarded the Eastern Conference Coach of the Month on different occasions. Here's where the scandal comes in. See, in the summer to fall of 2022, a lot of things went down that initially led to the suspension of Ime. An improper intimate relationship with a female staff, rumors of unwanted comments, hinting at abuse, and personal crises brewing brought the Celtics to do something that no team had ever done in the history of the NBA: firing a coach that brought you to #1 in the first year of their term.
Let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized.
Brad Stevens held a press conference where he basically condemned Ime's behavior, suggesting that he was privy to the details of the scandal. Some critics believe that if Brad had played a more neutral role, Ime's punishment might not have been that severe, and he would have gotten back to coaching in no time. Others think that Brad should not be blamed for Ime's firing, since it wasn't like he signed off on the decision himself. Some people argue that this type of situation wasn't news in the NBA, and thought that the suspension was fair. However, they criticized Brad's supposed influence in the decision to eventually fire him, which they described as unfair since the women involved didn't face the same level of criticism or punishment. The scandal affected Ime's family as well, as he and his long-term fiancée, Nia Long, ultimately ended up calling it quits on their relationship, most likely due to his affair with the female staff. Now, the industry standard would have it that accusations and scandals like these ruin a man's career. Most of the men who have been accused of anything involving sexual misappropriation have been battered down into oblivion, but not Ime. In fact, Ime only sulked a little, packed his belongings, and moved on. And now, people, here is where it gets interesting. When Ime left the Boston Celtics, he took with him the recipe for his success that he had been training them with: his leadership skills, his emphasis on accountability, and his strong defensive tactics. He took it all. Joe Mazzola was a good coach, but a lot of critiques argued that he was too soft and not the right thing that the Celtics needed at that moment. That being said, the Celtics didn't descend to the level they were before Ime, but Ime was taking them somewhere. It was an ongoing project that had to take a pause when Ime left, and Joe was left to fill in those blanks. To Joe's credit, at least, the club didn't sink, and even though their defense got weaker, they still managed to hold their own in a lot of matches and continue carrying the torch that Ime left behind. Literally, not up to 3 months after Ime's dismissal from the Boston Celtics, the Houston Rockets saw their opportunity and made a dive for him, snagging him as their head coach and signing the deal by April 2023. One of Ime's ethos when it comes to basketball is his emphasis on tough love and a no-nonsense approach to basketball, which has worked in favor of the Rockets so far. Ime brought the structure that the young, relatively inexperienced team had been missing, tightening up their game and improving their win ratios. Ime also focused on tightening the team's defensive identity, bringing them from one of the worst defensive teams to a much more disciplined unit. He helped young players embrace their identities on the court and play well in whatever roles they had been given, which made them absolute tanks when it came to defense. The result of his influence on the team could not have been any more overemphasized in the basketball world. Ime took the Rockets to the same heights that he took the Celtics, and in March of this year, they had 15 games to play. Can you guess how many they won? 13. They won 13 of the 15 games they played that month, due to Ime's coaching and strategic thinking. Think about that. 87% win rate from less than 50%. A turnover like that in just less than 1 month is nothing short of extraordinary. It is no wonder that he was named the Western Conference Coach of the Month, continuing his career as there had never been a break. Ime didn't need a warm-up. He didn't need a recovery phase. He just shook himself off the dust that was heaped on him in Boston and came to Houston to dominate. The intellect, advice, and training that he would have impacted on the Celtics are now being poured with double motivation on the Houston Rockets, who were more than eager to receive him on his entry into the team. Shaquille O'Neal talked about his coaching abilities here and commented on how he taught every one of them to play like a team, which was the one thing that improved their game.
Ime Udoka has done a great job of teaching them how to play like a team. You know, last year was, Jalen and whoever. Now they're moving the ball. Everybody's getting their fair amount of shots, and they're playing very well.
Well, what's the lesson from all this? What's the end point? Despite cancel culture and its way with the world, Ime Udoka is still up and active. He hasn't bitten the dust or given up the fight just yet. He still takes all the credit for the proper development of the Boston Celtics, and now has even better credibility, having developed another team into a team of world-class status. The Houston Rockets are winning big, crawling out of the basement of the underground of the league and into the limelight, all thanks to Ime's unique leadership abilities. The Boston Celtics? Well, they aren't having their worst season, and in fact, they continue to remain a formidable squad. However, we have to admit that things might never be the same with Ime, and we have seen some areas in their play that seem to be watered down by the month as Ime's absence from the club becomes more concrete. In fact, in the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, the Celtics lost against Miami, which raised questions about whether or not letting Ime go was a sound idea. His tough love, no-nonsense approach to leadership would have helped them scale the finals and come out victorious. But Joe Mazzulla's relative lack of experience has presented a drawback for the Celtics. As of January 19, 2025, the Boston Celtics have a record of 29 wins and 13 losses, placing them second in the Eastern Conference. The Houston Rockets hold a record of 28 wins and 13 losses, positioning them second in the Western Conference. While both teams have the same number of losses, the Celtics have one more win than the Rockets, giving them a slightly better standing. If Ime was still in the Celtics, critics believe that this gap would not even be close. On the other hand, Houston and the Rockets are smiling all the way to the top, as the transformation of the club is imminent and almost immediately noticeable. While they still have a long way to go, his impact on the club could get them to heights that rival those of the Boston Celtics and even surpass them. Will Ime have the last laugh during his time with the Houston Rockets? What do you think? Drop your comments below. And don't forget to drop a follow if you want to see more of our updates. Till next time.